Have you ever watched a movie flop so hard that even the lead actress had to sit in an empty theater just to process it? That's exactly what happened to Rachel Zegler, who didn't just star in Disney's Snow White, she starred in one of the most brutal Hollywood flops ever seen. Since the movie's disastrous second weekend numbers and reviews, this wasn't just a box office failure, it was a career-defining catastrophe. From political remarks to co-star beef, Rachel didn't just burn bridges, she lit the whole kingdom on fire. And now, after months of dragging this film through every controversy possible, Rachel Zegler completely lost it after Snow White bombed.
Great actor!
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
You know what's funny about this is that Rachel Zegler went to go see her own dumbass movie and nobody waited in line.
Tickets, please.
To see her. She went to go see her. There's no one waiting in line.
You know the flop is real when the lead actress shows up to her own movie and the room is so quiet. You can hear popcorn kernels crying. Fans tried defending her, claiming they rented out the whole theater, but the evidence suggests otherwise. If they had rented it for privacy, why post about the emptiness? Why document buying tickets at a kiosk when stars typically have private screenings arranged? It simply didn't add up. Multiple social media users were posting similar videos of ghost town theaters during Snow White screenings. People who felt obligated to see it, hardcore Disney fans, cinema club members, even casual viewers curious about the controversy, reported eerily quiet showings with barely a dozen people scattered throughout massive auditoriums. One viral TikTok showed a teenager spinning in circles in the middle of an empty Snow White screening, the camera panning to reveal not a single other patron.
Okie dokie. I am walking into Snow White. 2 p.m. Now seating. Let's see how empty it is. I hope it's off the walk we go. I hope. Sound like I hear a couple of people. One, two. Okay. 2.
The most damning aspect was Rachel herself filming the ticket purchase process, as if trying to prove someone actually paid to see it. A strange move for the star of what was supposed to be Disney's triumphant return to their princess origins. Instagram caught it all, turning what should have been a celebration into meme material. Users quickly grabbed the footage and transformed it into devastating comparisons. Snow White versus Barbie theaters, expectation versus reality memes, and countless edits setting her empty theater videos to sad music. These clips gave off, "Hey guys, come watch me tank my career in 4K" vibes. Like when someone tries to embrace controversy, acting like they're in on the joke to make it seem cool or de-escalate the backlash, that approach failed spectacularly here, making the whole situation even more cringeworthy. One commenter wrote, "When you need to create your own audience because no one else will," which racked up over 100,000 likes. Another devastating comment read, "Imagine being the lead in a Disney princess movie and you can't even fill one row of seats." The internet was merciless, and Rachel's attempt to somehow control the narrative by posting these videos herself backfired in the most public way possible. Multiple social media users were posting similar videos of ghost town theaters during Snow White screenings. People who felt obligated to see it, hardcore Disney fans, cinema club members, even casual viewers curious about the controversy, reported eerily quiet showings with barely a dozen people scattered throughout massive auditoriums. One viral TikTok showed a teenager spinning in circles in the middle of an empty Snow White screening, the camera panning to reveal not a single other patron. The most damning aspect was Rachel herself filming the ticket purchase process, as if trying to prove someone actually paid to see it. A strange move for the star of what was supposed to be Disney's triumphant return to their princess origins. Instagram caught it all, turning what should have been a celebration into meme material. Users quickly grabbed the footage and transformed it into devastating comparisons. Snow White versus Barbie theaters, expectation versus reality memes, and countless edits setting her empty theater videos to sad music. These clips gave off, "Hey guys, come watch me tank my career in 4K" vibes. Like when someone tries to embrace controversy, acting like they're in on the joke to make it seem cool or de-escalate the backlash, that approach failed spectacularly here, making the whole situation even more cringeworthy. One commenter wrote, "When you need to create your own audience because no one else will," which racked up over 100,000 likes. Another devastating comment read, "Imagine being the lead in a Disney princess movie and you can't even fill one row of seats." The internet was merciless, and Rachel's attempt to somehow control the narrative by posting these videos herself backfired in the most public way possible. Now let's talk numbers, because they are painful. Snow White reportedly cost Disney $370 million to make and market. That's nearly $400 million spent trying to rebrand a beloved classic into a modern morality tale. The production budget alone was rumored to be around $250 million, with another $120 million poured into a global marketing campaign that included theme park tie-ins, merchandise deals, and international premieres. For context, that's more than what Disney spent on live-action remakes of The Lion King or Beauty and the Beast, both billion-dollar hits. And in return for that massive investment, a measly $43 million opening weekend and widespread audience walkouts. Studio executives were reportedly in panic mode after the first weekend numbers came in, with emergency meetings called to discuss damage control strategies. Theater chains started shifting Snow White to smaller screens within days of release, reallocating prime showtime slots to better performing films. Even Dumbo, widely considered one of Disney's less successful live-action remakes, outperformed. This disaster and that elephant literally flew away from theaters faster than viewers escaped Snow White. Industry insiders began whispering about the film potentially becoming one of the biggest financial failures in Disney's modern history, joining the ranks of notorious flops like The Lone Ranger and John Carter. In its second weekend, the film experienced a steep 66% decline in ticket sales, bringing in just $14.2 million and falling to second place behind A Hardworking Man, which had 2,000 fewer theaters and no massive studio like Disney behind it. A 50% drop is considered standard for blockbusters. Anything above 60% signals serious audience rejection. At 66%, Snow White didn't just fall, it plummeted. Just let that sink in. A simple action movie with a fraction of the marketing budget outperformed Disney's most iconic fairy tale. Even The Chosen Last Supper, a faith-based film with half the theater count, almost surpassed Snow White's numbers, proving that audience word of mouth was actively working against Disney's princess tale. Theater employees shared stories of moviegoers demanding refunds halfway through showings, with one viral Reddit post claiming a family of 5 walked out saying, "This isn't Snow White, it's Snow Wrong." As of March 2025, the film's cumulative gross stood at approximately $66.9 million in North America, with an additional $75.8 million internationally, totaling around $142.8 million worldwide. When you factor in that theaters keep roughly 40% of ticket sales, Disney was looking at recouping less than $90 million from theatrical release, not even a quarter of their investment. It's official, Snow White bombed hard. Analysts believe the movie will lose over $100 million, even after accounting for streaming and merchandise revenue. But to add insult to injury, its IMDb score plummeted to as low as 1.5 out of 10 at one point, placing it among the worst-rated major studio releases in the platform's history. Critics weren't much kinder, with the film settling at a 24% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, making it the worst-reviewed Disney live-action remake ever. One prominent reviewer called it a soulless corporate product that manages to misunderstand both modern audiences and the timeless appeal of the original. Another simply stated it was the moment Disney's remake strategy finally, conclusively failed. That's not just bad. That's, should we delete this movie from history? But the box office disaster didn't happen in a vacuum. Rachel Zegler didn't just act in the movie, she talked it into the ground. Her press tour became a masterclass in how not to promote a film, with each interview seeming to alienate another segment of the potential audience. Before release, she proudly declared people would wait in line to see her movies, saying, "At every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see." This clip from an earlier interview resurfaced during the Snow White debacle, creating a perfect storm of irony as photos of empty theaters flooded social media. Well, that aged brilliantly. They waited in line all right, to buy tickets to literally anything else. The problem started when Rachel called the original 1937 version weird and extremely dated during a high-profile interview with Variety. Instead of acknowledging the film's historical significance while noting how sensibilities have evolved, she dismissed the classic outright, saying the story needed fixing. "I mean, the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and it really shows," she remarked with an eye roll that went viral as a reaction gif. She criticized the prince for being a creep who literally stalks Snow White, saying the original romance was problematic and needed a complete overhaul. This immediately ticked off Disney diehards who grew up loving the original fairy tale and saw her comments as disrespectful to animation history. Film historians and animation experts weighed in, pointing out that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was revolutionary for its time, the first full-length animated feature in America, and a groundbreaking technical achievement. Rather than acknowledging this legacy while discussing how their adaptation would evolve the story, Rachel's comments came across as dismissive and uninformed. Disney forums and fan sites exploded with criticism, with longtime supporters feeling like the new film was actively hostile toward the property they loved. Then she doubled down by essentially telling entire political groups not to watch the film. During a podcast appearance, when asked about potential criticisms from conservative viewers, she responded, "I don't need your business, thanks," with a dismissive wave of her hand. The clip went viral on right-leaning social media, creating an instant boycott campaign. She seemed to forget she was the lead in a family-friendly movie meant to appeal to the broadest possible audience, not running a niche political campaign. Family films traditionally avoid alienating any segment of the potential audience, but Rachel's comments effectively told a significant portion of American moviegoers to stay home. And apparently, those audiences listened, because they certainly didn't show up. Industry analysts estimated that her comments may have cost the film 15 to 20% of its potential audience before a single frame was shown. Disney executives were reportedly furious, with internal communications leaked to entertainment blogs revealing concerns about her self-sabotaging behavior months before release. One unnamed producer was quoted saying, "We have a star actively telling people not to see our movie. I've never seen anything like it." Marketing teams struggled to counter the narrative, but each new interview seemed to bring another controversial soundbite. By the time the press tour ended, Rachel had managed to alienate traditional Disney fans, animation purists, and conservative audiences, a trifecta of self-inflicted damage no amount of advertising could overcome. As if the controversy around the film itself wasn't enough, tensions between Rachel and Gal Gadot became impossible to ignore. What should have been a star-powered collaboration between the young newcomer and the established Wonder Woman actress devolved into what one set insider described as Frost Queen versus Firebrand. Disney reportedly had to beef up Gadot's security after receiving hate messages following some of Rachel's social media posts that seemed to passive-aggressively reference her co-star. Sources close to production claimed the two had fundamentally different approaches to the film, Gal embracing the fantasy aspects and Rachel pushing for a more political interpretation, leading to creative tensions that spilled over into their public appearances. Things worsened when Rachel made strange comments about Gal being a pageant queen during an interview with Entertainment Weekly, seemingly dismissing her co-star's acting credentials. The comment wasn't completely fabricated. Gadot had competed in Miss Israel, but the tone carried clear derision. Rachel then completely skipped mentioning Gal in a sentimental Instagram post thanking the Snow White cast and crew. Despite Gadot playing the iconic evil queen, the post meticulously named supporting actors, production assistants, and even catering staff, making the omission of her primary co-star glaringly obvious. Coincidence or shade? You decide. But industry insiders noted that such public tensions between leads are extremely rare and highly unprofessional, especially for a Disney production. The situation grew more uncomfortable when footage emerged from a press junket where Rachel appeared, to physically distance herself from Gal on a couch, prompting body language experts to analyze their interactions in viral YouTube videos. Journalists at press conferences noted the temperature seemed to drop whenever the two were asked about working together, with Gal offering diplomatic responses while Rachel often looked visibly annoyed or changed the subject. Given everything that's happened, it wouldn't be surprising if Gadot had a slight smile on her face watching the backlash Rachel's facing now. After all, Gadot's reputation remains intact, while Rachel's has taken a significant hit. The situation got so uncomfortable that other cast members were reportedly asked awkward questions about their relationship during press events, forcing them to navigate a minefield of tension while trying to promote a sinking film. One supporting actor anonymously told a Hollywood newsletter, "Every interview became about the beef rather than the movie. We were all caught in the crossfire." Disney's attempts to showcase the film's elaborate production design, costumes, and special effects were consistently overshadowed by speculation about the frosty relationship between its two leads, creating a media narrative that no marketing campaign could redirect. By this point, Disney's PR team was putting out fires like it was their full-time job, which it probably became. Internal sources claimed the studio's communication department was working around the clock in crisis management mode, with multiple team members assigned specifically to Rachel situation monitoring. They reportedly brought in social media experts to manage Rachel's posts, but that was like trying to babysit a tornado. One consultant described it as trying to put a genie back in the bottle after it's already granted 3 destructive wishes. She had already gone viral for bashing the original film, insulting fans, and dragging her movie through waves of controversy. The situation reached such a critical point that Disney executives implemented unusual measures. All interviews were reportedly being pre-screened and heavily supervised, with talking points distributed that specifically addressed what topics to avoid. You know it's serious when a producer personally flies out just to have a one-on-one about your behavior. According to industry insiders, a high-ranking Disney executive made an emergency trip to the international press tour specifically to address Rachel's comments and establish guardrails for future interviews. Private media training sessions were hastily arranged between scheduled appearances, with professionals brought in to coach her on more diplomatic responses. Even Steven Spielberg, who had previously championed Rachel in West Side Story and helped launch her career, reportedly raised an eyebrow at how off the rails things had gotten. Sources close to the legendary director claimed he was disappointed by the controversy, having personally vouched for her professionalism when she was cast in Snow White. The situation became so dire that Rachel had to post an apology that seemed so out of character it might as well have had Mickey Mouse's signature at the bottom. The carefully worded statement, which appeared on her Instagram following the second weekend numbers, read like it had been crafted by a committee of publicists and lawyers, lacking the outspoken voice that had characterized her previous posts. Want to express my sincere appreciation for the original Snow White and to clarify that my comments were meant to highlight our new interpretation, not diminish the groundbreaking classic, the statement began, before launching into a series of carefully constructed paragraphs that struck many as insincere damage control. But fans weren't buying it, and the damage was done. The apology post received less than a third of the engagement of her previous controversial statements, suggesting many followers had either unfollowed her or simply weren't interested in her attempt at reconciliation. What should have been Disney's triumphant return to their most classic princess tale had turned into a PR nightmare that marketing teams will study for years as what not to do. Actions have consequences, and Hollywood reportedly started ghosting Rachel faster than viewers abandoned Snow White. Industry newsletters and trade publications began reporting on studios distancing themselves from the actress, with projects that had been informally attached to her name suddenly going quiet. She was allegedly set to voice a character in Toy Story 5. Cut. Sources at Pixar claimed her character was being reconsidered following the Snow White debacle, with animators who had already begun preliminary character designs based on her likeness told to explore other directions. Rumored to star in a new Pirates of the Caribbean project, gone. Insiders at Disney claimed her name had been removed from casting shortlists across multiple franchises, with executives unwilling to risk another PR disaster. A horror trilogy with Blumhouse that was supposedly in early talks? Not anymore. The production company, known for giving young stars breakthrough roles in their low-budget, high-concept films, reportedly backed away from discussions after witnessing the Snow White press tour unfold. It seems nobody wants to work with someone who brings more drama than box office receipts. Major casting directors were reportedly telling producers to proceed with caution when her name came up for roles. One anonymous executive was quoted saying, "Talent is important, but not at the expense of tanking a nine-figure investment. There are plenty of talented young actresses who don't alienate half your potential audience before the movie opens." Inside, sources claimed studio executives were watching the Snow White disaster unfold with a mixture of fascination and professional terror. No one wanted to be the next to gamble on an actress who had become known more for controversy than performance. Talent agencies were reportedly scrambling to advise their other clients on how to avoid pulling a Zegler during press tours. The industry term Rachel Zegler press tour was said to be emerging as shorthand for a promotional campaign that actively harms a film's prospects. For an actress who had won a Golden Globe for her film debut just a few years earlier, the fall from grace was as swift as it was severe. After the flop, Rachel posted about how Snow White was life-changing and emotional for her, which only invited more mockery given the circumstances. The lengthy Instagram post described the film as a dream come true and an experience I'll treasure forever, statements that rang hollow as theaters were already reducing showtimes and moving the film to their smallest screens. Comments on the post were brutal, with thousands of responses ranging from laughing emojis to pointed questions about whether the life-changing experience referred to watching her career implode in real time. Between the empty theater posts, awkward online silence about Gadot, and endless damage control attempts, the meltdown was essentially complete. Her social media activity became increasingly erratic in the weeks following the film's release. She would alternate between defensive responses to critics, posting inspirational quotes about resilience and long periods of silence, a departure from her previously consistent and engaging online presence. Fan accounts that had once celebrated her rise began archiving her more controversial statements, creating compilations titled Rachel Zegler's Self-Destruction Tour that garnered millions of views across platforms. The film is now used as a punchline for Disney's identity crisis, with memes comparing Snow White's box office performance to other notorious flops becoming standard fare in entertainment discussions. From picking fights with fans to creating co-star tension and watching her own movie in an empty theater, she didn't just have a rough press tour, she spiraled into a full-blown public disaster. What began as an attempt to modernize her character's story for contemporary audiences transformed into a masterclass in how to alienate those same viewers. Every comment that was meant to position her as progressive and forward-thinking instead came across as arrogant and dismissive. Every attempt to address criticism seemed to dig the hole deeper. Right now, Rachel is the lead in a film that's been buried under memes, fan backlash, and studio regrets. A far cry from the career-defining role it was supposed to be. But until then, remember that a fairy tale ending doesn't always come with a happily ever after, especially if you're Rachel Zegler. In an industry built on fantasy, her story serves as a harsh reality check. Sometimes the magic mirror shows truths we aren't ready to face.